All right, I'd like to call the meeting of the Urbana City Council to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox,
Still here.
Mr. Garrick,
Here.
Mr. Lewis,
Just arrived.
Miss Marlin,
Here.
Mr. Roberts,
Here.
Mr. Smythe,
Here.
Miss Stevenson,
Present?
Mayor Pressing.
Here. The first item is approval of the minutes of September 21st.
So moved.
I'll second.
Is that you? Okay, motion by Robert Lewis, seconded by Brandon Bowersox, is that
No,
correct?
it was-
Okay, by
the voice
Dennis
was over
Roberts.
here.
Sorry about that. Any additions or corrections to the minutes? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Are there any additions to the agenda? Okay, petitions and communications, anyone like to address the Urbana City Council? Guess not. Old business, I don't believe we have any. Reports of standing committees, the Committee of the Whole. Who chaired that? Oh, that was Diane Marlin.
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I move creation of Looking for Lincoln Wayside marker for 2 historic Urbana trees.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Diane?
I think we'll take the next 2 together. We can't? Okay, all right. Then I move approval for ordinance number 2009-09-109, an ordinance to repeal and make void ordinance number 2008-09-093.
Second.
Motion by Marlin, seconded by Stevenson. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Miss Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Miss Stevenson?
Yes.
That motion carries. Ms. Marlin?
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I move approval of ordinance number 2009-09-110, which would authorize the sale of 1302 West Dublin to Ecolab for affordable housing development.
Second.
Motion by Marlin, seconded by Stevenson. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Miss Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Miss Stevenson?
Yes.
That motion carries.
On behalf of the Committee of the Whole, I move approval of resolution number 2009-09-029R, which is a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for Green Street improvements.
Second.
Okay, motion by Marlin, seconded by Lewis. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries.
I move approval of resolution number 2009-09-030R, a resolution for improvement by municipality under the Illinois Highway Code for Goodland Avenue.
Second.
Okay, motion by Marlin, seconded by Gehrig. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries.
I move approval of ordinance number 2009-09-107, which would be revising the annual budget ordinance for the purchase of a dump truck and salt spreader.
Second.
Motion by Marlin, seconded by Stevenson. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrick?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Miss Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yep.
Mr. Smythe?
Yes.
Miss Stevenson?
Yes.
Mayor Pressing?
Yes. That motion carries.
I move approval of ordinance number 2009-09-108, which would amend Schedule J of Section 23-183 of the Urbana Local Traffic Code, prohibiting parking at all times on Smith Road, Oglethorpe Avenue, Montgomery Street, and Abercorn Street.
I'll second that.
Motion by Marlin, seconded by Roberts. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe? Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
That motion carries.
I move approval of ordinance number 2009-09-111, which would be an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance to, for the intervention in the water company rate request increase.
I second that.
Okay, motion by Marlin, seconded by Lewis. Any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yes.
Mr. Smythe? Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
That motion carries.
And I move approval of resolution number 2009-09-031R, which would be authorizing the mayor to execute an intergovernmental agreement for intervention before the Illinois Commerce Commission in the Ameren electricity rate increase cases.
Second.
Okay, motion by Marlin, seconded by Lewis. Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nice job. Reports of special committees. I don't believe we have any. Reports of officers. Tom Carino, Economic Development Director.
Evening. Everyone should have received an economic development report earlier in the day. Just to highlight some items, we've seen an increase in activity in downtown. The former office space is currently being renovated and will be a tapas restaurant and bar to be called V Picasso. At the corner of Ray Street and University Avenue, 2 projects: the reoccupancy of the Wendy space as a Windy City Express, and on the northeast corner of that intersection, a professional law office to be the new home of Doyle, Lehman, and Patel here in Champaign County. The Historic Lincoln Hotel, we've actually had contact with 2 different groups interested in purchasing and continuing operation as a hotel. Both groups well capitalized, both groups interested in bringing in a brand potentially, and both groups having extensive hotels in their portfolio, so groups with experience in operating and owning hotels. So great news on Historic Lincoln. A new boutique on the corner of Ray Street and Main Street, the Wooden Hanger, that is going to be a women's clothing boutique, and the space that they're occupying was formerly a law office, and that law office was retained and relocated to a second floor space elsewhere in downtown. So exactly what we've been hearing from the public as to what we should be trying to do in downtown. So that's great. And a lease has been signed for the former Embassy Tavern, and that's going to be reoccupied as a bar and grill, and they're doing renovations right now, and will be reopening under a different name yet to be determined. So again, great activity downtown. We're working with the ownership of Lincoln Square Village to reoccupy the 88 Broadway space and have an interested party on that space. And then along Philo Road, the Pines and Stone Creek Commons, Frogs and Fairies is now open, which is an upscale children's clothing consignment store. And Wines at the Pines is on the way, so that'll be also in those inline shops at the Pines. The Chris Creek Commercial Building on Philo Road has its first tenant, which is a relocation of wireless mics from another building along Philo Road. And then construction continues on Freestar Bank as an outlot at Meyer. That's all I have for this evening, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Charlie.
Yeah, one quick one, Tom. I think redeveloping the historic Lincoln's really important for downtown. One of the pillars. What kind of incentives do you think will be expected as a city to provide? What's out there as part of TIF and so on?
Well, both groups are looking for considerable incentives in reoccupying that building. We have a couple different tools in our toolbox there, in that is within a tax increment finance district. So there is the ability to rebate some of those incremental taxes, property taxes. The property's in an enterprise zone, which doesn't necessarily equate to cash from the city to the developer, but the main incentive there is that any building materials used in the renovation are sales tax exempt. So that's a savings to a developer on any building materials used. And then also, there will be hotel motel tax generated, and the city has the ability theoretically to rebate a portion of hotel motel tax as well, although that is something we try to use the TIF incentive, as a hotel motel tax incentive is an impact to the general fund, whereas a TIF incentive is strictly a TIF district impact. And then there's also some limited food and beverage taxes that are collected, that there might be something creative we could do on that, but that's a very small incentive compared to the others available. So both groups are looking for an extensive incentive, and we've actually been running numbers for both groups.
Okay. And as part of their rehabbing, would they rehab everything? The meeting space, the bar. There's a bar there. Is the whole facility going to be used, or will they be cutting parts of it out?
We haven't seen any architectural renderings at this point, but both groups have implied that it's going to be a full facility renovation.
Brandon?
A quick comment and question for you. First, about the Lincoln, I agree with everything Charlie said. And I think one of the sort of criteria or the information that I hope you're sharing with them is some about the historic status of the building, so that whatever they're planning, they're going to do it in keeping with, like all of our conversations before, do it in keeping with sort of the history of the building and the historic landmark that's there. My question is, I know one of the other items in the ED report was a cost-benefit analysis on annexing a certain neighborhood, annexing Scottswood. Whenever that's complete and you're ready to share it, I know I'd love to receive a copy, and maybe other council members would too, so that we can start to understand some of the recommendations and some of the decisions about what's good to pursue and what's not for the public good.
Sure. Well, I'll start on historic Lincoln. Both groups, we had mentioned that maintaining the historical integrity of at least the historic portion of the hotel was very important, and both groups agreed with that. There's the late 1970s, early 80s Bavarian cottage edition. I don't know what the historical integrity of that portion of the hotel is. But both groups were interested in, the building is on the National Register of Historic Places, which is the first step in qualifying for a federal tax credit. And both groups were very interested, and they would be required to go through a Department of Interior review on the building if they want to qualify for that tax credit. And Lincoln Square Village ownership has gone through that process for some tax credits on their side. And then we've also offered the option of local landmark to both groups, and that will gain them some incentives related to building permit fee waivers and things like that. So both groups know about that and understand the importance of the historical integrity of the hotel. And then on the fiscal analysis for the Scottswood neighborhood, we'll certainly share that as we wrap that project up.
Diane?
Is there any difference among the two proposals for sustainability or incorporation of, the green technology or energy savings or water savings into their proposals, or have you seen them yet?
Neither group has gotten very much into those details, in that we haven't gotten to the point of looking at building materials, looking at architectural renderings, things like that. I think it's important to both groups in that green technology and sustainability equates to lower operating costs for both groups. Mm-hmm. So I think both are considering that, but neither has committed to anything at this point, nor have they provided us a list of materials that they'll use in the construction, that kind of thing. But I think both groups are looking at that.
I was just going to extend that. I think it would be appropriate to predicate some of the incentives on and encourage green technology as part of the incentives that we provide them.
That sounds like a goal. David?
And I'm going to undercut what Charlie just said by saying I think the importance of redevelopment of the Lincoln Hotel is so central to what downtown Urbana is about that I do hope that the city remains flexible.
One more.
Dennis?
Yeah. When, is it Crest Development Brokerage Company, is that the name of that? I can't remember, that Mr. Mercer and Mr. Downley approached the city originally, and we gave them the full scope of all the possible benefits they could get from the historic district and making the TIF district work for them, and then they had a really good shopping list of incentives to take out. And the really great thing is that the brokerage company did make an agreement with the bank to pursue this, realizing and specifically realizing that the city's interest in the historic nature and preserving the historic nature of the hotel. So even though they may now it's okay, you're telling us that they're going to bring a brand to the hotel, but we're hoping that it's in a sensitive way that will still honor the appearance and the historic nature of the hotel. Certainly we can support a brand, but it'll be a very special brand because this is a very special building. And we're really excited that they're willing to work with us and maintain that quality of the building itself. So interior updates, we want those, but to keep the historic nature of the outside, that's important to us too.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other reports of officers? Okay, I have 4 brief things. First, I know Cynthia Hoyle has been waiting for this. Sorry about that. I have a proclamation by the mayors of the city of Champaign and Urbana, Illinois. Whereas hundreds of children could be saved each year if communities take steps to make pedestrian and bike safety a priority, and whereas a lack of physical activity plays a leading role in childhood obesity, diabetes, and other health problems, and being able to walk or bicycle to school offers an opportunity to build activity into daily routine and build lifelong habits, and whereas driving students to school contributes to traffic congestion and air pollution as much as 25% around the school, and whereas an important role for parents and caregivers is to teach children about pedestrian safety and become aware of the difficulties and dangers that children face on their trip to school each day and the health and environmental risks related to physical inactivity and air pollution. And whereas community leaders and parents can determine the walkability of their community by using a walkability checklist, and whereas community members and leaders should make a plan to make immediate changes to enable children to safely walk and bicycle in our communities and develop a list of suggestions for improvement that can be done over time, and whereas children, parents, and community leaders around the world are joining together to walk to school and evaluate walking and bicycling conditions in their communities. Now, therefore, we, Gerald J. Schweihart, Mayor of the City of Champaign, Illinois, and Laurel Lunt Pressing, Mayor of the City of Urbana, Illinois, do hereby proclaim October 7th, 2009 as International Walk to School Day and encourage everyone to consider the safety and health of children today and every day. Thank you. Cynthia has done a great deal of work on getting this started in our community. So would you like to come up and get the proclamation? Sure. Just go ahead and set the table.
Thank you for the proclamation, and I wanted to say that the mayor and 3 of our council members will be joining us for Walk to School Day. I brought a couple of banners that we produced that I would like to offer to you for your use on that day. You can, and we did also provide some to the schools, so they will be in banners as well. And I wanted to say how much we appreciate the tremendous support of the leadership of the council and of the staff. We've had fabulous support from the staff of the City of Urbana. We've made a lot of progress, as you know. Urbana in particular has been featured in a number of national publications on safe routes to school for all the work that we have been doing. We have all of the schools in, elementary schools in Champaign and Urbana participating this year. That's the first year for Champaign. Urbana has had all the schools now for several years. And we're really looking forward to our events. And if any of the rest of you would like to join us, we'd be delighted to have you. A lot of the schools have events planned, and they welcome elected officials. The kids think that you're the President of the United States. So they really do. The first year, when the former mayor walked with us at Prairie, when the police officer announced that the mayor was with us, the children at Prairie screamed and rushed him, and he was pinned up against the wall. The officer had to rescue him. So it does mean a lot to them when the important officials and leaders in our community come and participate. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Oh, Brandon has a
Remind
question.
us again, which day is Walk to School Day this week?
Is this Wednesday is International Walk and Bike to School Day. We also have University of Illinois athletes, some of the teams join us. We have bicyclists come. The schools, most of them meet between 7:40, 7:45 for the events that they're planning and have a walk. We have a meet and walk. Most places, I think most of the schools now have the bus students dropped at a location where everyone can walk together so that everybody gets to participate in the event. And once you've done it, it is a lot of fun. Those of you who have done it before, people have a lot of fun, and they usually do it again once they've participated.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a memo from Todd Rent, the Human Relations Officer. We're going to be presenting a Dr. Martin Luther King Outstanding Achievement Award, and he has nomination forms. The cities of Urbana and Champaign and the county board are all sponsoring the Martin Luther King program on January 15th, and each government will be sending out nomination forms for the Outstanding Achievement Award. So if you have somebody in mind, see Todd Rent. Then there are a couple of things about water. One is very good, and that is Jennifer Munson, who is a dancer, has put together a project called the Mahomet Aquifer Project. It's a series of dance performances and a panel discussion on water in Urbana, Mahomet, and Havana. That sort of stretches across the Mahomet Aquifer. And she is a member of our Sustainability Advisory Commission, or is it the Public Arts Commission? Maybe it's the Public Arts Commission. Can't remember. What? Public Arts? Yeah, okay. Anyway, that's good. All right, that's going to be held October 10th through the 18th. Now, the bad news is I got an email from Matt Varble, I think he used to live here, that there's a request to put a landfill to dispose of PCBs, a PCB chemical waste landfill in DeWitt County in Clinton, which is over the Mahomet Aquifer. And so he's requesting that we help try to get a public hearing on this. So we'll see what we can do about that. Okay, those are my announcements. Moving on to new business. First is ordinance number 2009-10-112, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance, and this is to pay for what you have already approved, namely an intervention in the Ameren rate increase case. Okay, there's a motion by Bowersox, seconded by Lewis. Lewis is quiet, but he says it first. So, any discussion? Any discussion? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Bowersox?
Yes.
Mr. Garrett?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Marlin?
Yes.
Mr. Roberts?
Yep.
Mr. Smythe? Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mayor Pressing?
Yes. That motion carries. Finally, I have written up a motion to support municipal representation on state and regional water planning entities. I've written a memo about it. I'll just read the motion, which I hope someone would make, but basically the background is that there were 2 regional water studies completed in Illinois. One is for our Mahomet Aquifer. It was done by the Mahomet Aquifer Consortium for the central region of Illinois, and the second was in northeastern Illinois. And I met with representatives from the northeastern study. The cities up there feel that there needs to be more city representation. And I think the Mahomet Aquifer Consortium's done a good job, but they really only have 1 municipal representative on the whole consortium group. And I think that as we move into planning, the northern cities were saying that since cities supply most of the water, they should be a majority on these planning agencies. But even cities like Urbana and Peoria and Champaign, who do not own our water systems, we still represent the public in this tremendously important issue. So I think that all cities in the state would support this. The mayor of Macomb said he would support it, so I'm hoping Urbana will support it too. I'll read the motion. The vast majority of Illinois citizens are served by municipally owned water plants, and even in cities that do not own their own water systems, the planning and sustainable management of Illinois water resources are vital for the future of all water users. Therefore, the Urbana City Council wishes to go on record supporting representation of Illinois municipalities in a reasonable proportion of the Illinois population who live in municipalities in any state, regional water planning and management entities which may be created.
Second.
Okay, motion by Bowersox, seconded by Smythe. Any discussion? Brandon?
I mean, I'll just say this is so important for the future of people being able to live in our region 100 years from now. And I'm glad the mayor continues to take leadership on this issue and push the importance of a sustainable water supply. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned.